Hey, what's going on, everyone? Super excited to be with you this Wednesday morning. I wanted to talk a little bit today about relationships and marriage. About a week or two ago, we had a wonderful discussion on the fact that, Emily and I believe that healthy marriages lead to a healthy church. And so we prioritize as a church healthy marriages, healthy relationships, and we really want people to flourish in that area of their life, knowing that when you're healthy, when your family unit is healthy, that the church is healthy and strong. And so today, I wanted to jump into it a little bit, and this is inspired from last night in Emily and I's life, but today I wanted to talk about Christian discussions. Yes, the arguments that we might have or the fights that may occur. Listen, none of us are perfect. I know that if you have faith, you might feel this pressure to live and be a certain way. But I will say that fights and arguments and conflict is bound to happen. And so don't beat yourself up if that is the case, but let's be encouraged and let's be challenged to be better when those conflicts and those arguments do come up in our life. And so a little bit about us. Emmy and I last night had the most classic argument, Christian discussion ever, which is, where do we want to eat? Yes, it has not been solved for centuries. I ask the question, she gives the I don't know answer, then I make a suggestion, and that's the worst suggestion ever. Has anyone else ever had that discussion, right? And it comes up and it brings up this argument, this fight, and eventually you end up getting pizza. So, but all that to be said is that arguments, fighting, tension, Christian discussions, like we like to call it. Christian discussions, they're bound to happen when you're close with people, when you're in relationship. There's bound to be tension between one another. And so how can we manage that? How can that become less in my life? I feel like I'm fighting all the time. I feel like I'm arguing all the time. And so I wanted to share this with you, and believe me, this is not even just for your spouse. This is with your kids. This is with your boss. This is with your coworker. This is with your family, right? We have conflict everywhere. So I want to share this with you, and I read this the other day, and this just brings some really good perspective to how we can navigate some relationships. But this is in James chapter 4, and it says this: what causes fights and quarrels among you? If only I could know, okay? So James, tell me, what causes fights and quarrels among you? Don't they come from the desires that battle within you? Wait a second. It's not Emily's fault that I'm upset right now. It's not Warren's fault, my son's fault, for the annoyance that I'm going through right now. It's not my employer's fault for the bad mood that I'm in. No. Don't they come from your desires that battle within you? I think that's an interesting perspective, that the reason that there's quarrels, the reason that there's tension and perhaps arguments or Christian discussions between us is that there's a desire that's within us that is out of alignment with the other person. And so I think that this is really important. This is not, I can't tell you how to fight, but what I can tell you is that this concept right here will release a lot of stress in you, a lot of anxiety in you, so that you can better communicate. And so that actually, to be honest, the fights and the quarrels and the arguments and the discussions become less and less. If you think about it, every one of your fights, every one of your discussions, every bit of your tension between your boss, between your friends, between your family, whoever you're in relationship, every bit of that tension comes from the desire within you. If I didn't want to eat unhealthy, or if I didn't want to not have a salad again, that discussion would have been really easy. But Emmy wants to be healthy, and I want to be healthy too, but I just like pizza too, right? And so I had a desire, Emmy had a desire, and that's where the tension and the conflict came up. And so I want to challenge you today. If you're in relationship with one another, if you are married, if you are an employee, if you have a brother or sister, consider this: the fact that you might be bringing a lot of your selfishness and a lot of your desires to the conversations. And essentially, the whole gospel is this: that Jesus loved you so much that he would give his life. And so in the same way, do we love others so much that we would give our desires up? That's a hard conversation to have with yourself, but it's something to really pray about. Perhaps the reason that there's so many fights, or there's a disconnect, or there's tension within your household, is because you are fighting and having desires that are constantly hitting against one another. And so perhaps we need to desire change. Perhaps we need to desire more of what would make the other person feel loved, more of what the other person would feel cherished, more of what the other person, or what would help the other person feel heard or accepted, whatever it is. Perhaps we need to get off of our own desires and we need to start prioritizing other people more. And I know that when we love people above ourselves, there's a blessing that happens in that. There's a favor that happens in that. There's a true love to be found in that. And so I want to challenge us all today. Perhaps the fights, perhaps the arguments are coming because there's a desire problem in us. Huge thing for me to consider, and I'm going to be praying about that with you guys as well. But understand that they come from the desires within your heart. If you want less fights, man, we got to change up what is happening in our heart, not the external things, what's happening inwardly. I hope this blesses you today, and we'll see you soon.